for this tutorial, we are going to be making the spike stitch. I am going to be using Paint Box Simply Aran. Any worsted weight yarn would work, or any weight yarn you want to use with the appropriate hook size. You will need at least 2 colors for this stitch to work. Otherwise, I don't think the texture will quite pop if you're only using 1 color. So you do need at least 2 colors for this stitch. And I am using a J 6mm crochet hook. Alright, so let's start with getting our yarn on our hook. For this stitch, you will need to chain a multiple of 4 plus 2 more. So I'm going to chain 18 for this swatch. Get my yarn on my hook, and I'm going to chain 18. Okay. And whenever you read in a pattern where it says chain a multiple of something plus a couple more, so for instance with this pattern you need to chain 4 plus 2 more, a multiple of 4 plus 2 more, that means you need to chain your multiple of 4. So I did 16, which is a multiple of 4, plus 2. So my plus 2 more is the 18. So whenever you read that in the pattern, sometimes it can be confusing. Are you supposed to add the 2 and then do that multiple? You do the multiple and then you add 2, add 3, whatever the pattern says to the end. So we're going to get started with the spike stitch. You have your chain of a multiple of 4 plus 2. I have 18 here for this swatch. So what we're going to do is first we're going to do a row of single crochet. I'm going to start in the second chain from the hook. And if you've watched my video tutorials before, you know I like to crochet in the back humps of my chain. I think they're so much easier to count, so much easier to see. Plus, I like this pretty side to be at the bottom of my work. So I'm going to turn my chain over to the back. There's 1, 2. I'm going to start right here in the second chain from my hook. I'm going to insert my hook into that chain, yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through 2, and there's my first single crochet. I'm going to single crochet all the way across. There's my first row of single crochet, and with this stitch I will need 2 more rows of single crochet. So I'm going to do, so for row 2 I'm going to do another row of single crochet. So I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to turn, and my chain 1 does not count as a stitch, so I'm going to be starting right here in this very first stitch. I'm going to insert my hook into both of these top loops, yarn over and pull up a loop, and yarn over and pull through 2 for my first single crochet of the row. I'm going to do that all the way across. There's row 2 of my single crochets. I'm going to repeat that same row for row 3. So I'll chain 1 and turn my work, and again starting in this very first stitch, because my chain 1 does not count, I'm going to work my single crochet, and I'm going to do that all the way across. I'm getting near the end of row 3 with my single crochets. I'm going to do 1 more. I'm going to stop right before my last stitch, because for the next row I need to change colors. And when I change colors, I like to change colors in the last stitch right before I want my new color. So I'm going to do it in the, I'm going to pull my new color through in the last step of this last stitch. So I'm going to get my second color ready. And I'm going to insert my hook into the next stitch with my first color. I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop. and I'm going to drop this color. I'm going to pick up my new one, and I'm going to pull that color through those 2 loops to finish off my single crochet with my new color. I'm going to tighten it up a bit so that it's nice and tight. Okay. I'm actually going to go ahead and snip off this first color because I'm not going to pick it up for a few more rows. So I'm going to go ahead and snip that and leave that here because I will pick it up again. So now I'm working with my second color, and in the next row, row 4, is where I'm going to be starting my spike stitch. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work, and I'm going to do a regular single crochet in my first stitch. So in this very first stitch, I'm going to insert my hook and do a regular single crochet. Now for the next stitch is where I'm going to do a spike stitch. So I'm going to work a single crochet, but I'm not going to do it in the next row down. I'm going to go down 1 row. So in 1 row down, I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and I'm going to pull it up to the height of this first single crochet. I'm going to yarn over and pull through both. And in the next stitch, I'm going to actually go 2 rows down. So here's that 1 row down, and then here's 2 rows down. Insert my hook in that second row down, yarn over and pull up a loop all the way to the height of this row I'm working on, yarn over, pull through 2, and there's our next spike stitch. Now for the next one, I'm going to go all the way down to the 3rd row below. So here's 1, 2, 3. Insert my hook down there. I'm going to yarn over, pull up a loop nice and loose all the way to the height of where I'm working right now. Yarn over, pull through 2. And there's your first sequence of spike stitches. So the next stitch is going to be a regular single crochet. In this very next stitch, I'm going to insert my hook and work a regular single crochet. Now I'm going to do a spike stitch 1 row down. So here's my single crochet for the next stitch. Here's 1 row down. Remember to pull that loop up to the height of the row you're working on. Now I'm going to do a spike stitch 2 rows down. So here's my next stitch, 1 row down, 2 rows down. Pull up a loop to that height of the row I'm working on and pull through 2. And for the next stitch, I'm going to do 3 rows down. Here's the next stitch. Here's 1 row down, 2 rows down, 3 rows down. Pull up a loop, pull it nice and loose, yarn over, pull through 2. And we're going to continue repeating that all the way across. So again, I'm going to do my regular single crochet in the very next stitch. Now I'm going to do my spike stitch 1 row down. Here's my single crochet, 1 row down. Now a spike stitch 2 rows down. Single crochet, 1 row, 2 rows. And then a single crochet, a spike stitch 3 rows down. It's my next stitch, 1, 2, 3 rows down. And I'm going to repeat that sequence 1 more time for my swatch. So single crochet in the next stitch, spike stitch 1 row down, spike stitch 2 rows down, spike stitch 3 rows down. And then regular single crochet in your last stitch. So here you have your first row of spike stitches. For the spike stitch, it just creates such a cool effect. So now for the next 3 rows, you're going to single crochet across with this same color. So for the next 3 rows, go ahead and do 3 rows of single crochet. So now I've completed rows 5, 6, and 7. They're all 3 rows of single crochet. And then row 8 is going to be a repeat of row 4 with this spike stitch. So I've stopped one right before my last stitch of row 7, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull back in my first color. So I'm going to start this last single crochet with my current color, then I'm going to pull through my first color on the last step of my single crochet. So I'm going to insert my hook in my last stitch and pull up a loop, and then I'm going to drop this color and I'm going to pick up my first color. I'm going to pull this through those 2 top loops. And now I'm going to do a repeat of row 4. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. And I'm actually going to go ahead and snip this one so I can get it out of the way. And we're going to repeat row 4. So I'm going to do a regular single crochet in my first stitch. And then I'm going to do a spike stitch 1 row down. So here's my next stitch, and here's 1 row down. Then I'm going to do my spike stitch 2 rows down. So here's my next stitch, 1 row, 2 rows. Excuse the cat running through the house. And then I'm going to do a spike stitch 3 rows down. Here's my next stitch, 1 row down, 2 rows down, 3 rows down. And I'm going to repeat that sequence all the way across. Regular single crochet, spike stitch 1 row down, spike stitch 2 rows down, spike stitch 3 rows down. Regular single crochet, spike stitch 1 row down, spike stitch 2 rows down, spike stitch 3 rows down. Regular single crochet, spike stitch 1 row down, spike stitch 2 rows down, spike stitch 3 rows down. And then a regular single crochet in your last stitch. And there is row 8 for the spike stitch, and you're going to continue repeating this pattern. So we did a row of spike stitches, now we need 3 rows of single crochet. Here I have finished 3 rows of single crochet. Again, I stopped right before my last stitch because I'm going to bring in my second color. I'm going to do that the same way I did the previous times. I'm going to pull it in on that last step of my single crochet. And now I'm going to do a row of spike stitches. So I'm going to repeat that row 4 sequence, chain 1, turn my work, and do a regular single crochet, and then a spike stitch 1 row down, spike stitch 2 rows down, and a spike stitch 3 rows down. I'm going to repeat that all the way across to my last stitch. Oopsies. And my last stitch, I'm just going to do a regular single crochet. And you will just continue repeating that pattern. You will do a row of spike stitches and 3 rows of single crochet. And wherever you end this stitch, your last row should be a spike stitch row. So there you have it, the spike stitch. As long as you know how to single crochet, you can definitely tackle this really fun stitch. I hope you love it.